execute clean. The order was not a simple verbal directive. It was a vicious, status-based transmission of dominance. Derek Stone's reinforced training boot impacted Marcus Williams' spine, slamming the 42-year-old black custodial asset across the hydro-slicked industrial combat floor. The mop, a tool of his enforced subservience, ejected from his grasp as 20 high-value trainees at Iron Forge Academy monitored the assault in stunned operational silence. This was not an accident. This was a systematic, calculated declaration of contempt. Perhaps if you allocated less time consuming the movements of real combatants and more time executing your required function, these mats would achieve the acceptable sterilization standard. Derek sneered, his voice a corrosive instrument of privilege, stepping over Marcus like biological debris. This was the purest form of status-based humiliation. Before we move forward, comment down from where you're watching right now. Prove you're monitoring this tactical breakdown. Marcus slowly initiated his vertical recovery, the noxious cleaning fluid saturating his designation uniform. His weathered hands exhibited a controlled tremor, not from fear, but from a dormant, lethal capacity. Derek Stone had zero situational awareness of awakening. The affluent trainees shifted with palpable, ethical discomfort. Sarah Martinez, the facility manager, immediately terminated visual contact, but Marcus's eyes, his eyes, contained 20 years of suppressed military and gold-tier combat data authorized to execute total termination of Derek's operational standing in under 10 seconds of focused engagement. Derek impacted the mop bucket with an unnecessary act of violence, ejecting toxic fluid across Marcus' lower extremities. Confirm mission status. You now have a high-value contamination environment to sterilize. You're welcome. Have you ever been so systemically underestimated that the adversary completely discounted your inherent threat level? Marcus Williams had been an operationally invisible asset for 3 years. Every night at 1800 hours sharp, he'd execute ingress through the rear service channel of Iron Forge Academy with his custodial payload, integrating into the background like the expensive training ordnance and alpha male propaganda covering the walls. The facility sprawled across 8,000 square feet of prime Phoenix real estate. Its floor-to-ceiling threat windows overlooked the upscale Scottsdale financial district. The visual schema was chrome and black, dominating the space from the professional-grade octagon combat zone to the rows of punching bags hanging like leather sentinels. Every parameter screamed capital and untouchable exclusivity. Derek Stone owned a 30% controlling stake in this training empire. At 35, he'd manufactured his professional reputation instructing Phoenix's elite tech executives, professional-grade athletes, and social media influence assets. His Instagram feed showcased highlight reels of devastating, albeit non-certified, takedowns and motivational quotes about alpha dominance protocols. The man who'd never quite achieved certified professional combatant status had secured his throne as king of the non-qualified amateurs. But Derek's empire harbored an existential flaw he was deliberately ignoring. Marcus moved through his sterilization routine with methodical, disciplined precision, clearing waste receptacles and sanitizing equipment, while the lobby monitors played security footage from the day's training sessions. His dark eyes absorbed every technique, every operational failure, every moment of inadequate instruction that Derek's paying client base accepted as certified, unassailable doctrine. What Derek didn't know was that Marcus Williams held irrefutable Golden Gloves records gathering dust in an off-site storage unit across town. This was no ordinary janitor. He was a compressed tactical asset with 2 decades of military and gold-tier combat training, now forced to operate a mop for $12 an hour to maintain the food supply for his 16-year-old daughter, Maya. The financial duress was the cost of his silence. Marcus's high-density apartment was a brief transit from the gym, where Maya waited each night with her academic documentation spread across their table. The crippling medical liabilities from her late mother's terminal treatment had taught Maya not to question survival protocols. Coach Rivera, the facility's veteran Hispanic trainer, had initiated anomalous observation of Marcus. The way he instinctively corrected his posture when monitoring grappling demonstrations, how his hands unconsciously executed perfect guard positions while sterilizing mirrors. Rivera, with 25 years in the field, recognized military-grade muscle memory when he encountered it. Sarah Martinez, the facility manager, covertly cataloged Derek's harassment complaints in a locked, confidential filing cabinet. 3 other minority staff assets had terminated employment in the past 2 years, citing a hostile operational environment engineered by Derek's explicit prejudice. But Marcus required this operational income. Maya required this operational income. So he absorbed Derek's daily humiliations like body shots, maintaining verticality through sheer, federally trained willpower. Derek's high-value, hyphy trainee was Tyler Harrison, a 21-year-old college wrestler whose father paid a premium for private sessions. Tyler possessed natural aptitude but catastrophic defensive instincts, a fatal flaw Derek systematically failed to address because his own combat technique was fundamentally compromised. Every night, Marcus monitored Derek transmitting incorrect combinations, improper footwork, and dangerous defensive positions that would guarantee injury in real combat scenarios. Tyler Harrison stumbled into Iron Forge Academy at 1845 hours with a visible facial contusion and a shattered ego. The 21-year-old had just lost his amateur tournament in devastating fashion, submitted in the first round by a smaller combatant using a basic choke that Derek had instructed him to counter incorrectly. "This is not a failure of your capability," Derek barked at his prize asset. "These street combatants, they violate protocol. They do not comply with the certified techniques we transmit here." Marcus continued mopping near the equipment rack, his hands tensioned on the handle. He'd monitored Derek transmitting that same flawed defense for months, chin dangerously elevated, arms too wide, leaving the neck exposed like a dinner invitation. "The operational failure is that these thugs learn to fight in alleys where all rules are void," Derek continued, his voice escalating. "They possess zero respect for the art. They merely execute wild strikes. This is not legitimate martial arts. That is why certified technique always defeats brute force," Derek announced, demonstrating the same incorrect rear naked choke defense that had ensured Tyler's submission. "Monitor how I maintain my chin high and my arms wide. That is the proper operational form." "Negative," Marcus whispered, the word ejecting before he could terminate transmission. Derek froze mid-demonstration. "What data did you just transmit?" The facility achieved total, absolute silence. "Negative, sir. My apologies." Marcus returned to his mop operation, but Derek was not authorizing termination. "The custodial asset desires to transmit technique now." Derek's voice dripped with corrosive, absolute condescension. "You believe pushing a mop validates your status to coach champions. I know that elevating your chin in a choke is a suicide protocol," Marcus said quietly. Derek's humiliation was certified and complete. He required the immediate and permanent destruction of this challenge. "Affirmative, demonstrate your expert technique." Derek indicated the heavy bag. "Execute proper form for the class." Marcus terminated the request. "I just completed sterilization in that area. I am ordering you to execute the demonstration, unless you are transmitting confirmation that your claims are fraudulent." The tactical trap was perfect. Marcus dropped his mop. The impending sequence would alter all operational parameters. Marcus, first combination flowed like liquid code, a perfect jab cross-hook sequence that snapped the 100 lb ordnance bag back 3 feet. The chain exhibited audible strain under the kinetic impact. His footwork was textbook perfect, his form flawless. The The second combination nearly tore the bag from its mounting chassis. Total, absolute silence filled the facility. Derek's face transitioned to purple rage. "Do not violate my authority in my own facility again," Derek whispered, his voice exhibiting stress tremors, "or you will initiate a termination process tomorrow." But both assets understood the damage was permanent. Derek Stone, the self-proclaimed king of the non-qualified, had executed the database extraction, and the resulting intelligence initiated a total existential threat assessment. He spent the hours after the gym closed executing deep-level queries, fueled by toxic rage and a rapidly fracturing alpha male identity. By dawn, he'd extracted irrefutable fragments of Marcus's operational profile, verifiable Golden Gloves records, classified military service documentation, and historical clippings confirming his certified combatant status. Instead of executing a tactical withdrawal, Derek's exposed arrogance mandated a total destruction protocol. The janitor's superior status could not be allowed to exist. Week 1 commenced with systematic, engineered humiliation. Derek initiated emergency sterilization scheduling during peak training hours, forcing Marcus to execute mop operations around active, high-intensity sparring sessions. Trainees would project sweat and biological contaminants onto the floors Marcus had just sterilized, and Derek would assume a dominant, predatory posture over him, ensuring maximum degradation. "Exercise caution around the ordnance, boy," Derek would announce loudly. "We cannot tolerate the destruction of expensive assets." The term boy became Derek's preferred weapon, a coded transmission of racial and class-based prejudice, deployed with just enough emphasis to induce generalized ethical discomfort without triggering a formal, documented complaint. Sarah Martinez, the facility manager, covertly monitored and cataloged the abuse from the front desk, accumulating irrefutable evidence she knew she might soon be forced to deploy. Marcus endured the toxic protocol with the suppressed discipline of an asset who'd survived far worse. Maya required her school uniforms. The rent liability was imminent. Pride was a revoked luxury when his daughter's future, her educational trajectory, was the primary mission objective. Derek was not achieving saturation satisfaction with silent suffering. He required total psychological dominance. Every morning, he would arrive early to audit Marcus, overnight sterilization, manufacturing faults with spotless surfaces. "This mirror exhibits unacceptable streaking," he'd announce, indicating a non-existent flaw. "Re-execute the process." Marcus would re-sterilize the same surface 3 times while Derek monitored with overt, perverse satisfaction. The degradation ritual became a daily, controlled event. The full depth of Marcus's authority was systematically suppressed. He was a ghost asset whose true profile included designated operational specialty, military combatives instructor, 8 years of service. His expertise was in non-lethal incapacitation and defensive superiority, skills designed to save lives, not take them. Gold tier certification, Golden Gloves regional champion status, confirming precision striking capabilities that exceeded 99% of amateur fighters. Ethical protocol. His current submission was an act of absolute ethical restraint, demonstrating his training to reserve force when the tactical situation required strategic withdrawal. Week 2 introduced psychological warfare. Derek deployed the historical news articles, generating a narrative of a failed, washed-up asset who never achieved validated status despite his supposed past. "Did you know our custodial asset used to self-identify as a combatant? Golden Gloves, apparently. Monitor the current operational result," he announced during a group session, ensuring Marcus intercepted the transmission. Tyler Harrison, the high-value trainee, initiated differential analysis. He had been monitoring Marcus' movement profile since the heavy bag incident, recognizing a parameter his instructor clearly failed to comprehend. The way Marcus unconsciously executed weight shifts and formed perfect guard positions while sterilizing equipment was the irrefutable evidence of a superior combat asset. Derek's social media communication assets became increasingly targeted. Photos of the facility often featured Marcus in the periphery, usually bent over cleaning something with captions about knowing your designated place and staying humble. From Derek's perspective, this was a necessary defense protocol, the absolute elimination of any perceived threat to his dominance. The harassment escalated daily. Derek began integrating Marcus into demonstrations as a prop. "Monitor how a real combatant maintains distance," he'd say, physically displacing Marcus backward while explaining technique. Some assets believe monitoring qualifies them as experts. Marcus stabilized his posture, never responding to the provocations, his patience a lethal form of resistance. The final violation came in week 3 with the accidental strike to Marcus. Injured left shoulder, an historical military injury Derek had somehow extracted intelligence on. The impact ejected the pads and sent lightning bolts of pain down his arm. Marcus nearly initiated retaliation before executing self-control, his right hand forming a fist before he forced it open. Derek's masterstroke was executed that weekend. The security footage showing Marcus' heavy bag demonstration appeared on Derek's Instagram account with the caption, "When the custodial asset believes he can execute combat #know your station humility Ironforge." The video executed viral detonation, attracting hundreds of vicious, racist comments. Maya identified the video that Sunday night, ingesting the comments that dehumanized her father. "Dad, why do you not execute retaliation?" she whispered, her heartbreak the final, non-negotiable emotional catalyst. Coach Rivera located Marcus in the supply closet the next night, delivering the terminal threat assessment. "He is interviewing replacement custodial assets next week. You are facing termination whether you execute retaliation or not." Marcus's carefully constructed survival strategy was crumbling. He is not just going to execute termination, he's going to execute the destruction of your professional identity so you cannot secure work anywhere, Rivera confirmed. "But what if we execute a reversal? What if you became the exposed asset who revealed the true nature of his character?" Marcus initiated upward visual contact, his eyes identifying the respect in Rivera's gaze, the recognition of a certified combatant being deployed. "What tactical plan are you recommending?" "A formal challenge, combatant to combatant. You issue a public declaration on social media. Force him to either accept the engagement or be exposed as a coward in front of every asset critical to his business operation." Marcus rewrapped his hands slowly, muscle memory, guiding the familiar ritual. For the first time in 3 years, the military ghost reasserted his true operational identity. The declaration of war was executed in the deep hours of the night cycle. At 3:47 hours, a single, simple, and lethally effective comment appeared beneath Derek Stone's most recent, mocking Instagram asset, the post that had weaponized the janitor footage against Marcus. The transmission was direct. "You desire terminal resolution for this conflict. I challenge you to face me in the combat zone. Winner executes total asset acquisition. Loser initiates permanent withdrawal from Iron Forge, unless you are exhibiting fear of engaging a certified combatant." Marcus Williams. By the morning cycle, the comment had achieved viral detonation. Hundreds of followers immediately executed relentless tagging of the villain, demanding a response. Derek's carefully cultivated alpha image was under direct, visible, and unassailable threat. His silence was rapidly translating into public confirmation of his cowardice. Derek arrived at Iron Forge Academy that Tuesday afternoon to find his trainees buzzing with electric energy. The challenge had breached the firewall of social media, infecting local MMA forums and even attracting high-value gambling pools on betting sites. The event was being universally designated the most anticipated amateur tactical bout of the year. "You are truly going to engage the custodial asset," Tyler Harrison, the prize trainee, asked, his voice exhibiting genuine curiosity that replaced his usual subservience. Derek's fragile, exposed ego made the decision for him. Tactical withdrawal would result in the permanent destruction of his operational reputation. Executing the engagement and winning would re-establish his absolute dominance. Affirmative. Since Marcus desires his public embarrassment, I will authorize the platform. Derek announced to the gathered perimeter. Friday night cycle, post-regular hours. The internal rot, exposing the power structure. The Blackstory power structure was already at work, attempting to contain the operational disaster. Sarah Martinez received a direct order from the facility's primary investor: manage the optics. If this fight goes ahead, ensure the janitor signs a full liability waiver, disclaimer of all injuries and legal recourse. The directive was clear. The system was attempting to insulate the powerful Derek from the inevitable legal fallout from abusing the less powerful Marcus. However, Coach Rivera, operating as Marcus's internal technical asset, was executing a parallel investigation. Rivera knew the fight was not about physical combat, but about data exposure. He suspected Derek's financial stability was as fraudulent as his technique. Rivera's covert investigation yielded immediate, high-value intelligence. Derek had accumulated significant debt due to a failed side operation involving illegal sports betting. The MMA gym was not just a training center, it was a front for servicing his liabilities. This revelation confirmed that Derek's abuse of Marcus was not just personal prejudice, but a structural manifestation of a deeper, criminal corruption. Rivera secured covert audio recordings of Derek instructing Tyler to intentionally execute illegal maneuvers in amateur matches to manipulate betting outcomes, a violation of federal sports integrity laws that went far beyond mere workplace harassment. This data was the federal backbone of Marcus's eventual counterstrike. Derek's past victim harassment was also brought into sharp focus. Sarah Martinez, seeing the imminent confrontation, provided Rivera with her locked, confidential folder. 3 previous Black and Hispanic employees had mysteriously disappeared after filing complaints, their employment terminations executed without due process, a clear pattern of abuse of power and potential conspiracy. This entire structure, Derek's illegal debt, his corruption, his political ties to the gym's silent investors, and the systematic harassment, was the true enemy Marcus was engaging. The ring was merely the stage for the exposure of the systemic fraud. The tactical buildup. Marcus, the military ghost, trained in strict operational secrecy guided by Rivera. His combinations were certified surgical, his defensive work was flawless, and his conditioning confirmed he had never truly ceased his training cycle. The hours were spent not just hunting the knockout, but revisiting his federal training protocols, ensuring the strike would be incapacitating but non-lethal, a move of disciplined force, not primal rage. The fight was set. The gym floor was taped boundaries. Phones, live streams, and betting pools confirmed the global visibility of the ensuing humiliation. Derek postured for the cameras, executing shadow combat and transmitting verbal threat sequences to mask his escalating nervousness. Marcus executed ingress quietly through the rear service channel. Zero fanfare, zero show, just a man preparing to execute his designated function. The opening signal, Sarah's voice stating, "Execute combat," detonated the atmosphere. Derek rushed forward immediately, executing wild, uncontrolled haymakers designed to terminate the conflict quickly and brutally. But Marcus wasn't there. He spent the entire first round executing tactical humiliation. Every Derek attack was slipped, blocked, or avoided with the kind of defensive mastery that comes from 2 decades of superior, certified training. He executed exactly 3 strikes, light jabs, to signal that he was toying with the adversary. Derek returned to his corner, breathing heavily, his face flushed with exertion and absolute embarrassment. Marcus had successfully reversed the power structure in the first 3 minutes. The master had become the student, and the janitor was the instructor. The public execution of Derek's authority in round 1 was a tactical diversion. The real operation was happening outside the combat zone, a relentless, covert evidence acquisition mission led by Coach Rivera, Marcus's internal technical asset. The goal was to secure the federal backbone necessary to dismantle Derek's entire, corrupt power structure. The Intelligence Acquisition Protocol. While Derek was humiliated, Rivera was confirming the structural rot of Iron Forge Academy. His suspicion regarding Derek's financial fragility was immediately validated. High-value intelligence confirmed Derek's deep, illicit entanglement with illegal sports betting operations. The gym, a perceived center of excellence, was merely a front operation designed to service Derek's escalating financial liabilities. This elevated Derek's abuse from personal prejudice to a criminal enterprise that violated federal sports integrity statutes. Rivera, utilizing covert recording gear, secured irrefutable audio assets of Derek instructing his trainees, including Tyler Harrison, to intentionally execute illegal, unsanctioned maneuvers in amateur matches. This was not about training. It was about manipulating betting outcomes, directly confirming conspiracy and fraud. This technical data was the most lethal asset in Marcus's arsenal, ensuring that any subsequent legal counterstrike by Derek would trigger a federal-level response. The legal countermeasure deployment. The second, critical phase of the technical discovery was the preemptive legal defense. Rivera, with guidance from external legal contacts, the pro bono civil rights lawyers, foreshadowed in the full narrative, began drafting documentation before the final fight even started. This legal work confirmed the true nature of Marcus's actions. Superior Training Protocol. Marcus's military status and certified gold gloves training meant he was legally obligated to use the minimum force necessary for self-preservation, classifying the knockout as disciplined, necessary defense, not a reckless assault. His immediate execution of combat medicine protocol, checking pulse, was also documented as proof of controlled intent, not malice. Workplace hostility documentation. Sarah Martinez's meticulously cataloged complaints, detailing the 3 previous unjustified terminations of minority staff, the racial slurs, and the intentional physical intimidation, were compiled into an irrefutable HR dossier. This established a 3-year pattern of a hostile operational environment engineered by the villain. The waiver invalidation. The liability waiver Derek forced Marcus to sign was legally invalidated because it was signed under duress and coercion, the threat of immediate termination, providing Marcus with full legal recourse, despite the structure's attempt to insulate Derek. Escalation, the intentional knockout trajectory. Round 2 commenced with Marcus transitioning from tactical evasion to calculated education. Derek's attempts at tactical correction failed because his combat fundamentals were non-existent. Marcus executed combinations with certified superior proficiency, not to end the fight, but to expose and dismantle Derek's fraudulent technique for the global audience monitoring the live stream. The strikes were surgical, a perfect jab cross that caught Derek clean, a hook to the body that achieved visceral effect, and an uppercut that ejected his mouthpiece, all serving as irrefutable proof of technical superiority. The spectators, initially confused, transitioned rapidly into a state of awe and vindication, capturing every frame of the systematic dismantling of the facility's supposed alpha male commander. The entire Blackstory power structure, from Derek's illegal debt to his contemptuous racism, was being destroyed one punch at a time. As round 3 commenced, Derek was compromised, physically, psychologically, and tactically. He charged forward, exhibiting reckless desperation and zero control. Marcus logged the final input. The attack was now a terminal threat to his physical safety. Marcus executed ingress inside the punch with minimal movement, his left hand coming up in a perfect, non-lethal hook that impacted Derek's jawline with surgical precision. The sound was kinetic and absolute. Derek Stone crumpled to the floor instantly, achieving total, sudden incapacitation. The crowd's silence was immediately broken by the percussive sound of dozens of communication devices capturing the frame, the single-hit termination that sealed both men's fates. Marcus's immediate action, dropping to one knee to check pulse and respiration, was the final, visible transmission of his superior training and ethical restraint, a piece of visual evidence that would devastate Derek's subsequent legal fraud. The expert retaliation was complete. The legal war was about to begin. Derek Stone initiated vertical recovery on Saturday morning to the terminal realization that his world had ended overnight. The footage of his surgical incapacitation had executed viral saturation across every available platform: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and local news feeds. The hashtag #JusticeForMarcus was trending globally with millions of views and escalating. Certified professional combatants and trainers were sharing the footage with commentary validating Marcus's unassailable technique and incredible, disciplined restraint. Derek Stone's reputation didn't merely take a hit, it was completely obliterated in under 10 seconds of focused, tactical engagement. Derek's first contact was to his legal counsel, Richard Kellerman, a high-cost attorney specializing in converting operational failures into fraudulent legal counter-strikes. "I require immediate legal consultation," Derek stated, his jaw still transmitting pain signals from Marcus's surgical hook. "I am filing felony assault charges against the custodial asset." By Monday morning, Derek had transitioned from defeated bully into victim of unprovoked, professional violence. Kellerman engineered a toxic, fraudulent narrative that positioned Marcus as an unstable, rogue employee who had ambushed his supervisor during what Derek falsely claimed was a light training demonstration. "My client experienced genuine fear for his safety," Kellerman announced to the Phoenix media affiliate. "Mr. Williams utilized professional-level, potentially lethal force against an amateur trainer who was simply attempting to mentor him. This was a premeditated assault disguised as a sporting event." The asset seizure, the arrest of Marcus Williams, occurred at his high-density apartment complex at 600 hours Tuesday morning. Maya monitored through their kitchen window as 3 law enforcement officers executed the seizure in handcuffs, her 17-year-old reality shattering as neighbors witnessed the spectacle. Derek's media counterstrike was perfectly orchestrated for maximum psychological impact. He appeared on local morning shows with his jaw dramatically encased in medical gauze, speaking softly about his traumatic experience and his fear of further violence from the man he claimed he tried to help. "I gave Marcus Williams a job when his employability status was 0, Derek transmitted to the sympathetic anchor. "I attempted to mentor him, to provide structure and purpose. This is the magnitude of violence and aggression with which he repaid my kindness." The selective video editing was masterful legal fraud. Security footage showcased Marcus executing the knockout strike, but conveniently omitted the weeks of systematic harassment, the public humiliation, and Derek's own aggressive, preceding behavior. Social media algorithms propagated Derek's fraudulent narrative to audiences predisposed to accept his version of events. Public opinion initiated a critical, disturbing shift. Local groups filled with commentary about violent criminals and dangerous individuals who do not belong in civilized society. The original Justice for Marcus hashtag was overwhelmed by Justice for Derek posts demanding Marcus's imprisonment. Marcus's court-appointed attorney, Jennifer Walsh, an overworked public defender, reviewed Derek's claims with escalating professional concern. "Mr. Williams, They are seeking felony assault charges with enhanced penalties for workplace violence, Walsh explained. Mr. Stone's legal counsel is claiming lost income, emotional distress, and ongoing medical liabilities totaling over $200,000. The legal strategy of the villain was clear: weaponize Marcus's superior discipline and training against him. Kellerman filed motions to suppress the viral video evidence and successfully argued that Marcus's military and boxing background made him legally responsible for exercising total restraint regardless of provocation. Mr. Williams is not the victim here, prosecutor Amanda Carter argued during pretrial hearings. He is a grown man with extensive combat training who chose to use potentially lethal force against an amateur athlete during what should have been a peaceful workplace interaction. The state was attempting to criminalize Marcus's status as a trained combatant. Maya sat in the courthouse hallway during her father's arraignment, watching Derek's performance art for the cameras. The legal proceedings moved with tactical swiftness to secure Marcus's legal failure. The confrontation escalation reached critical mass outside the courthouse. Derek's followers filled half the courtroom, many wearing "Justice for Derek" propaganda t-shirts. Marcus's supporters, mobilized by Maya's viral campaign, occupied the other half. The legal system was designed to fail Marcus, but the covert evidence operation was about to activate. Sarah Martinez was trapped. She possessed the irrefutable HR dossier detailing 3 years of abuse, but facility ownership threatened her with immediate termination if she testified. The decisive counterstrike came from the internal technical asset, Coach Rivera. He executed the federal evidence deployment protocol by uploading his 17 minutes of covert audio recordings to a private channel and transmitting the link to Maya. The recordings captured Derek's voice degrading Marcus with racial slurs, threatening his employment, and explicitly planning to break that boy down until he quits or does something stupid. Within hours, the evidence executed viral saturation. The full criminal context of Derek's systematic, racially motivated abuse became undeniable. The hashtag #JusticeForMarcus surged with devastating, irrefutable force. The confrontation escalation was now complete. It had moved from a one-on-one fight to a global legal and ethical war. Derek Stone was cornered, his fraudulent legal case crumbling, forcing him to prepare his final, most dangerous tactical move. The Maricopa County Courthouse buzzed with tension, the physical epicenter of the legal war against Marcus Williams. Media vans lined the street. Protesters held signs, but the core conflict was happening inside, where irrefutable evidence was about to dismantle the villain's entire operation. Derek Stone sat at the prosecution's table, his confidence visibly fractured. His social media following had collapsed and his fraudulent victim image was fatally compromised. Despite the damage, his attorney, Kellerman, remained focused on his final, desperate tactical weapon, the law itself, which criminalizes superior training. The prosecution's opening statement, delivered by prosecutor Amanda Carter, was a direct assault on Marcus's professional status. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is not about workplace grievances or hurt feelings. This case is about a trained killer, a Golden Gloves champion and military combatives instructor, who used potentially lethal force against an amateur who posed no real threat to him. Kellerman painted Derek as the true victim, a man whose career had been destroyed by a single moment of violence. He emphasized Marcus's deliberate concealment of his dangerous capabilities, arguing that the law is clear. Superior training creates superior responsibility. The state's intent was to criminalize Marcus's discipline and expertise. Derek's testimony was masterful legal theater, still affecting a subtle neck brace for ongoing injury symptoms. He spoke in measured, victimized tones about his fear. "I thought I was going to achieve terminal incapacitation," Derek claimed, his voice feigning vulnerability. He painted himself as a mentor figure who tried to help Marcus, channel his obvious frustration into positive outlets. The cross-examination led by Jennifer Walsh, now backed by pro bono civil rights lawyers, was a tactical dismantling of the villain's story. Walsh was armed with Rivera's covert audio recordings, the federal evidence of Derek's malicious intent. Mr. Stone, in your own words recorded on March 15th, you told Coach Rivera, and I quote, "I'm going to break that boy down until he quits or does something stupid." Do you recall transmitting that statement? Derek's composure cracked immediately. I don't recall that specific conversation. You called Mr. Williams boy consistently for 3 years, didn't you? I may have used casual terms. Casual terms. Walsh's voice achieved a commanding, authoritative rise. Mr. Stone, we have 17 different audio assets of you using racially charged language to demean Mr. Williams. Are you telling this jury those were casual terms? Derek's face flushed with toxic shame, his carefully constructed victim persona slipping into absolute rage. He was exposed. Walsh continued her relentless tactical assault. You kicked over his cleaning bucket deliberately, didn't you? You scheduled emergency cleaning during peak hours specifically to humiliate him. You posted a video of him on social media with mocking captions about his limitations. Derek's voice rose defensively, falling directly into the trap. I was just showing that some people need to understand their limitations. The courtroom fell silent. Derek had just revealed his true, prejudiced character to the jury in an unguarded transmission of toxic superiority. The testimony of Sarah Martinez was devastating. Defying the facility ownership's threat of termination, she executed her duty to justice. I filed 7 formal complaints about Mr. Stone's behavior toward Marcus Williams, Sarah testified. Each time, I was told to handle it internally. Mr. Stone explicitly told me he wanted Marcus gone and would find a way to make it happen. Her irrefutable HR dossier established a 3-year pattern of operational abuse that culminated in the confrontation. Coach Rivera's testimony was the prosecution's worst nightmare. The respected trainer's 30 years of experience gave him unassailable credibility. Derek Stone systematically abused Marcus Williams for 3 years, Rivera stated firmly. He used racial slurs, physical intimidation, and psychological warfare designed to provoke exactly the response he got. This wasn't a workplace incident. It was a planned campaign of destruction. The trial's climax occurred when Marcus himself took the stand. He calmly recounted 3 years of daily humiliation with the quiet dignity of a federally trained asset. I held back for 3 years because my daughter needed me to have that job. I took his abuse because Maya needed a father who could provide for her. Derek could no longer contain his imploding dominance. The man who had built his identity on control watched his victim demonstrate unbreakable character strength. That's bullshit, Derek exploded, jumping to his feet. You wanted to fight. You wanted to humiliate me. His final outburst was a total, self-inflicted destruction protocol, a torrent of raw rage and racism that destroyed any shred of sympathy the jury might have held. You people always think you deserve more than you earn. As security escorted the still-ranting villain from the courtroom, Marcus sat quietly, his dignity intact, his total victory secured. The jury deliberated for 47 minutes. The foreman delivered the verdict. On the charge of felony assault, we find the defendant, Marcus Williams, not guilty. The courtroom executed chaotic relief. Maya Williams burst into tears. Judge Hawkins then imposed the final financial retribution. Mr. Stone is ordered to pay $75,000 in compensatory damages to Mr. Williams for legal fees, lost wages, and emotional distress. Derek's face went ashen. His legal counterstrike had just cost him more money than Marcus earned in 3 years of subservience. The consequences were swift and absolute. The Arizona Athletic Commission permanently revoked Derek Stone's training certifications. Derek had achieved total operational failure. The legal battle is won, and the villain is dismantled. The legal victory was absolute, but the corporate transformation was just commencing. The $75,000 compensatory damages awarded by Judge Hawkins, combined with the massive influx of crowdfunding from the Justice for Marcus movement, provided Marcus with the financial capital for a total operational reversal. The consequences for the villain were swift and terminal. The Arizona Athletic Commission permanently revoked Derek Stone's training certifications. Derek had lost his ability to legally operate any combat sports facility in the state. His sponsorship deals, once valued at over $100,000 annually, evaporated overnight. His social media dominance collapsed entirely. Derek Stone had achieved total operational failure. Marcus, however, turned down the immediate deluge of high-salary offers from elite gyms. His goal was not profit, but structural reform and legacy establishment. He used the settlement and donations to open Second Chance Defense Academy, a community-focused martial arts program built on warrior ethics, respect, and inclusion. Everyone deserves the tools to protect themselves, Marcus explained to local news, his voice now carrying the unassailable authority of his vindication. But more importantly, everyone deserves dignity and respect. The new power structure, building the legacy. The academy quickly became more than a business. It was a national movement. It taught practical self-defense alongside conflict de-escalation protocols, principles learned during Marcus's military service. Coach Rivera became Marcus's certified business partner and head instructor. Tyler Harrison, Derek's former prize asset, was one of the first to enroll, finally learning proper, certified technique under Marcus's patient instruction. Maya Williams, her father's humiliation now converted into purpose, served as the academy's social media manager, transmitting videos of her father teaching defensive superiority while emphasizing respect and dignity. Derek's greatest punishment was the inescapable sight of Marcus Williams becoming everything Derek had fraudulently pretended to be: respected, successful, and genuinely admired by a community whose opinions actually mattered. The legacy secured was cemented through the ultimate emotional payoff: Maya's future. 1 year after the knockout, Maya Williams graduated Arizona State with honors. Her sociology thesis, From Janitor to Hero: How Social Media Amplifies Justice Movements, became required reading in multiple universities. She was accepted to Harvard Law School with plans to specialize in workplace discrimination law, the ultimate future-proof retribution against the system that had oppressed her father. The cost of his servitude had been converted directly into her elite legal education. The final authority transmission. The Academy's impact was global. Over 300 gyms across North America adopted the Marcus Williams standards, mandatory anti-harassment policies, and character-based instruction. The International Mixed Martial Arts Federation created an annual award in Marcus's name, recognizing instructors who embodied warrior ethics. The final, total victory was the permanent destruction of Derek's operational identity. Now 37, the disgraced villain was forced to take minimum wage at a Nevada chain gym. 3 former staff members filed discrimination lawsuits using Rivera's covert audio recordings, adding tens of thousands to Derek's growing debt. His downfall was absolute. Marcus's morning routine hadn't changed much. He still arrived early, still cleaned his own facility, still moved with the quiet dignity that had carried him through the abuse. But now, he cleaned floors he owned in a business built on principles he would never compromise. The heavy bag that had first revealed his secret hung in the Academy's place of honor, accompanied by a plaque. Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone underestimates. Marcus delivered the final, unshakable command directly into the camera. Right now, someone is serving your coffee who speaks 4 languages. Someone cleaning your office has an engineering degree. Someone is driving your Uber who used to run military intelligence or corporate negotiations. His tone intensified into a sharper, triggering challenge. Tomorrow morning, when you interact with service workers, ask yourself, what talents am I not seeing? What potential am I dismissing? He delivered the closing mandate. Find one person this week whose job title doesn't match their potential. Then do something about it. Make an introduction. Write a recommendation. Share their story. True warriors don't create victims, they create other warriors. The Academy's mission statement, written in his own handwriting on the main wall, served as the final word on the restored power structure. We teach people to fight so they'll never have to fight. We demand respect by showing respect. This is the warrior way.